Did you start recording it? Okay, here we go.
Okay, we are live, and I am beyond excited to have two very powerful human beings on my Zoom today, my live today. I have Franco, who is the formulator of a new revolutionary product that we are coming out with in just a few days, and we're going to talk about that. And Franco is a PhD candidate. He is a researcher. He is a former Mr. North America bodybuilder. He owns an incredible nutraceutical company up in Canada. And he's going to be talking today about what the difference is between this keto product versus other keto products on the market, and why this is such a huge game changer. And then I also have with me my very good friend, Dr. Socrates, who has been my friend for a very long time. We worked together sidelines in a company years ago, and he has come out of retirement because he's so excited about this product and knowing that this is going to be such a game changer for so many people's lives in so many ways, not just vanity. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is not just a fat burning product. So we're going to go into that a little bit more, but let me give you a better introduction, and then I'm going to have both of you talk. So Socrates is, he's got his PhD in biochemistry. He was in the Marines. He worked in genetics. He owns his own supplement company, and he is an entrepreneur coming out of retirement because of this product. So I'm excited to be working with you, Socrates, and I'm excited to have you on, Franco. Thank you so much for doing this last minute. I literally, like on a whim, the day of, asked you if you could jump on here and just, you know, talk a little bit with us today, and you said yes. So thank you so much for that. So Franco, tell us what is the difference? Why is this product so different than other exogenous ketones on the market, and why is that very important for us today?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the exogenous ketone first, to set a foundation as to why we see these exogenous ketones in the marketplace today and the purpose. So a long time ago, it was understood that the ketogenic diet did support people who had epilepsy and frequent epileptic seizures, especially those who were not treatable effectively by various drugs that were used to treat epileptic seizures. And it was noted that the frequency of these seizures in these drug-resistant cases reduced significantly when the ketogenic diet was applied. It wasn't too long after where it was understood that the ketone itself that is made by the body, the ketone that is made by the body when you're on the ketogenic diet, was responsible for initializing the mechanism by which this declined. And so then came the next phase where exogenous ketones were manufactured for supplementation to raise serum ketone levels high enough so that they could cross the blood-brain barrier and serve the brain as an energy substrate. So for the synthesis of ATP in the brain. So we've seen these exogenous ketones in the marketplace now being touted as weight loss agents and agents to improve insulin efficiency for those that may have insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. And the fact is that they can work mildly. But what has become a bit of a misinformation base and misrepresented is that the ketones themselves are for weight loss. And there's a much bigger play, a much bigger application in general, as we spoke of earlier in the preliminary discussion. Most of us, as we journey through life, begin to develop various degrees of insulin resistance. And as you get older, that insulin function declines slowly. And some of us will cascade over into what we call type 2 diabetes. So if this insulin resistance progresses to the point where there are clinical symptoms and measurable matrices that we can determine and conclude that you have type 2 diabetes. And that would be your fasting blood sugar is high, your inability to clear blood sugar effectively. Those things tend to indicate that there's a type 2 diabetic state. AC1, various parameters that can be measured to conclude that your insulin resistant state has progressed to a type 2 diabetic clinical condition. But what we have to remember is that there are pre-diabetic conditions we all live with as we age. And you may not know, or there may not be a measurement that indicates specifically that you have type 2 diabetes. But what happens as you get older, we tend to find that you don't recover as fast as you did when you were 20. That relates to inflammatory activity and the poor regulation of inflammation in the body. It also relates to the fact that you may require more insulin to be secreted in order to clear blood sugar from a meal. And that's because the insulin is resistant in the body. And that resistance tends to, as I said earlier, to increase as you age. And that's why we don't recover as fast. We tend to put on body weight as we get older. It's harder to get that weight off when you get older, unless you can reset that insulin function to youthful stages. And therefore, we're resetting a biology or metabolic activity that we now have termed metabolic syndrome that leads to a high risk or predisposition for a whole bunch of diseases related to insulin and glucose mismanagement in the body. But we can reset that. And when we reset that metabolic activity by resetting insulin function, a lot of things start to happen. Weight loss becomes easier. Your brain functions even a lot differently because the brain can actually then receive an energy substrate more efficiently to fuel itself. And when it does that, you actually crave less carbs. So here's the interesting thing when we can relate to this product and the process that occurs in the body. We now know and call a third type of diabetes called type 3 diabetes in the brain. And it's localized to and defined as a diabetic condition whereby the neurons in the brain are not capable of efficiently being signaled by insulin so that glucose can be transported into the neuron so that the neuron can then make ATP and function fully. Now, it's not really understood if that is a cause or contributor the pathology of dementia, or dementia itself and the inflammation that occurs in the brain because of dementia contributes to this insulin resistance in the brain. But we can bypass by supplying the ketone exogenously. The ketone crosses the blood-brain barrier, and that then serves the brain with a fuel source that can a substrate, the ketone, that can be used to make ATP at a much more efficient rate in the neuron than with glucose. So think about this. Now you're taking this exogenous ketone, which has been synthesized, and your brain can function at a higher level, a higher frequency, if you want to call it that. The rooms feel brighter. Your recall ability is better. If you have, an inability to recall like you did when you were 20, that can be reset based on the fact that the neurons now have a new substrate for energy and they don't depend on this glucose. And if you've developed this type 3 diabetes in the brain, that's overcome because the ketone does not depend on insulin to be absorbed in the neuron. It's independent of that. And so what happens is now we can begin to use this substrate that's exogenous to fuel the cells in a way that they've never been fueled before and to make more ATP with less oxygen than with glucose. So now think about that in the context of conditioning. If you're involved in a cardiovascular program to try to get fitter, you can go longer. It's not taxing on the vascular system the way it was before. And your insulin is functioning more efficiently in the body so that you're managing calories more effectively. Your body and your metabolism begin working with you towards your goal. Now, having said that, one of the biggest challenges we face with the typical exogenous ketone is that when you consume this exogenous ketone, whether it's an ester, a BHB ester or BHB salt, what happens is you cause serum ketone levels to rise, and then you get a feedback mechanism that inhibits lipolysis and inhibits ketogenesis inside your body. What that means is that when serum ketone levels get high enough, just over baseline, and baseline is about 0.1 millimole for the average person, just over baseline, it tells your body and your cells to stop making ketone from your own fat. So when you take regular exogenous ketones, then your metabolism tends to slow down the use of your own fat as a source of energy. And you have to burn through the ketone, burn in terms of metabolic burning, and at 5.4 calories per gram. So the more you take isn't better, because now you got to burn through it in order to get to your own fat after you've primed yourself with this exogenous ketone. Now, the reason why I spoke about dementia and cognitive disorders is because the high dose of ketones that is typically recommended today based on the research is originally designed based on a need for those ketones to cross the blood-brain barrier to treat epilepsy. Today, if you take all that, you have to burn through those calories and wait for your body to use your own fat as a source of energy. And what we did, and this is based on my own experience as a bodybuilder in the initial stages, and then after I won Mr. IFBB Weider North America, I said, hey, you know what? I can continue down this path. When you get to that level of bodybuilding, it's not the healthiest lifestyle. So I figured, I'm going to take what I know, and I'm going to go back to do my PhD at the University of British Columbia Faculty of Medicine, and I'm going to learn how to apply all of these things I've been doing to drug research that the pharmaceutical industry uses so that nobody can refute the outcome once we publish the papers using the models that have been used by various drug research companies that have drugs in the market approved. And so we use those drugs, in fact, as our controls for these substances that we're using to affect our metabolism naturally. And we run this research parallel to the drugs to show, hey, we can do this through natural substances and affect the body in a positive way and give people the tools they need to reinstate a metabolism and reverse metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance to youthful stages so that your body begins to work with you towards your goals. And what we did with the ketone in particular is we found that butyrate, which is butanoic acid or the short chain fatty acid, not medium chain, okay, the short chain fatty acid butyrate coupled to BHB butyric, the beta hydroxybutyric acid. Now, beta hydroxybutyric acid is the ketone. It's called a ketone body that we consume as the exogenous ketone. We couple butyrate to it. And the interesting thing that happens is when you take the BHB at the dose we supply, it primes the brain and you feel immediately within 15 minutes, wow, I'm ready to work. You don't feel hyper. And this is where it's really cool because I got some feedback from the original sample I sent you last week from the executive team. They're like, wow, I felt my brain was alive. I felt good. But oh my gosh, when I engaged in physical activity, I could just go. I mean, typically I do a 5-kilometer run. Now I'm doing 10 kilometers on that treadmill. And it feels like 5. Why? Because you're using less oxygen to make more ATP. And the body has a lower demand on the cardiovascular system. But here's the biggest shift with this new technology. That butyrate molecule, the short chain fatty acid, is a ligand that signals the hepatic tissue, the liver, and tells it to make ketones through beta oxidation. So think about this. You're going to take the exogenous ketone, serum ketone levels rise, feedback mechanism goes to the body, say, stop using your own fat. But the signal is saying, no, keep using your fat. And you burn through the ketones you've just consumed in Ketoba very quickly because the dose is not 12 grams. It's about 3 to 6 grams, depending on your body weight that you take. You burn through fast, but what you find is, oh my gosh, like I can keep going because your body has been signaled to make ketones. As soon as the ketone level drops, the body says, wait, you got to make more. And then it looks and says, whoa, we're already making more. And you go, and you go, and you go, and you don't stop. And in fact, the weird thing that Mike, my VP and president now of business development, he's a runner. And he typically scaled things down running, 7 to 8K a day and fasted on Koba, no food in the morning. He goes out, does a double dose, and he says, I just felt like going and going and going. And that day he did 21K. And this is like out of the blue. And the reason is, again, you have a lower demand for cardiovascular. Your body is prompted to use your fat to make internal endogenous ketones from your own fat. Whereas if you take regular beta hydroxybutyrate salts or esters on their own, you take those, now you're burning through those at 5.4 grams per calorie, and you got to wait. And then when you get through those, there's no signal to tell your body to continue using your own fat to top your blood after you've declined after the serum ketone levels have declined. So this is the mechanism. And when we were using this to prepare for bodybuilding shows in the past, originally I had a large group of people that I trained with me. And eventually I said, well, wait a minute, you guys are my competitors. I had to strip it away in order to get ahead. And then when I won, I went, okay, now we got to do something commercial with this. But the reason why I did something commercial with it is so fund the research to keep it going. And that's what we've been doing now. We take the funds and now we go from product to product every quarter to map the pharmacology of each of these botanicals. For example, curcumin, I'll just mention this quickly because this is not the subject matter we're talking about, but people think, curcumin is curcumin. Well, curcumin is made up of 3 curcuminoids. So what we did is I stripped down the curcumin, isolated each of the curcuminoids, and mapped the pharmacology of each individually to know how the polypharmacology is being generated, and then re-engineer it to be more specifically targeting the proteome or the proteomic components that we want to target in their different disease pathologies. And so we've done this with the ketone to optimize it and make it very specific to what we want it to do. We want to get your body making ketones from your endogenous internal fat, not relying on the exogenous ketone as the prevalent and primary ATP substrate. And this way, for example, if you're on a ketogenic diet, you're guiding your body with the low carb, high fat diet, medium protein. You're guiding your body to make ketones from your own fat and use fat as a primary source of energy. However, the problem is if now you take the exogenous ketone, the regular exogenous ketone, well, you're inhibiting the process that you're trying to activate in the ketogenic diet, because ketogenesis gets shut down. And we show that in our research. It's published. You take regular BHB, ketogenesis is terminated, and fatty acid oxidation in the system is terminated. And when you take ketoba, the same research shows the BHB coupled to the BA, the fatty acid oxidation starts and continues through the process and never stops. And so does ketogenesis, even with the introduction of that BHB as the primer, that ketogenesis continues. And that's what you want. So I'm not on a ketogenic diet. I'm on a low carb diet that is not really that low, but I still use ketoba as a pre-workout because I can go in and work out fasted and not burn off muscle, because you're supplying enough fat and ketones as a reservoir for energy, and then forcing your body in the activity to use fat to make ketones for your brain. Because the one thing you got to keep in mind, if you go on a calorie restricted diet or a carbohydrate restricted diet, it's not your body forcing you or pushing you to eat carbs. It's your brain, because the body can use fat as a primary source of energy, the peripheral tissues, but the brain can't, because fat can't cross the blood barrier effectively as a substrate.
Can't hear you.
This case.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So the brain can't use fat. The brain's saying, hey, I need carbs. Go get me some carbs. And people don't make it past 2 or 3 days on a low carb diet or a ketogenic diet. But when you're taking ketoba, we are actually priming the brain with the ketones it needs to be on a low carb diet. You don't crave carbs. You eat what you need to eat, not what you're impulsively forced to eat by a brain that's starving of carbohydrate. So you're in control completely of your diet. Your metabolism shifts because your insulin function is optimized. Blood sugar is cleared effectively. You can actually measure, and this is the most amazing thing. There are very few supplements that you can take where you can measure the effects by the hour, by every 15 minutes. So if you take ketoba, you can, on a graph, measure serum ketone levels rising every 15 minutes and continuing, because now you're manufacturing them, while blood sugar goes down, and they cross in the middle. And you can have blood sugar levels up at 10 millimoles and down to 5 fasting very quickly, and they cross. And it's reliable with everyone. And we've mapped it with most people using the product. Serum ketone levels go up, blood sugar comes down. Now, here's the cool thing. In order for your body to use the ketones in the bloodstream effectively as primary energy substrates, you have to lower blood sugar, because the body will always use that glucose first. And when you're on a ketogenic diet, waiting for the brain to get that optimized level of activity, you want the ketone to be prevalent. So the system is designed because the BA itself, the butyric acid, that short chain fatty acid, also facilitates clearance of blood sugar. So you're creating the conditions in the bloodstream where ketones are high, blood sugar is low, so that the ketone becomes the prevalent energy substrate no matter what. And that's why you start to feel that, wow, oh my gosh, the room feels brighter. And I'm on and ready to go. And I just took one about a half hour ago.
I could tell. I could tell.
Franco, this product must cost like hundreds of dollars.
No, actually, I've seen the product a lot in the marketplace, but the way we've been able to optimize this, you know, most companies keep the margin in their company. Like for me, the objective here is to provide a cost reasonable product that's not cost prohibitive, because the objective here is to get people healthy. And as we talked about earlier, you know, North America is suffering from obesity and diabetes. It goes hand in hand. And this helps both conditions individually, yet they're codependent, and stops the cycle very quickly.
That's so awesome. Franco, goodness gracious. Thank you so much for having us on. Thank you for explaining that. For years, people were trying to get me to use exogenous ketones, trying to convince me of it. And it never made sense in my brain. Why would I take an additional source of fuel when I'm trying to burn fat? It just didn't make sense. It made sense during maybe a fast. It made sense if I was fasting and I needed some sustenance, but not on the daily. That never made sense to me. So thank you for clearing that up. We are so excited to have this product in our hands. I can't wait to get my hands on it and start using it. I know there's a sample coming my way. And then we launch this next week. So Frank, thank you for all of your research, everything that you've done. We're so excited to be partnered with you. I know Socrates and I we're chomping at the bit. We've got challenges lined up for people, and we're just so grateful for you. So thank you for hopping on. Socrates, was there anything you wanted to ask or talk to Franco about before we let him go?
No, I'm going to go ahead and piggyback on everything that he said. I'm going to talk a little bit about AMPK and PPAR, and that's all the stuff that he's actually talking about. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on that in a lay term, so that everybody could get a feel for it and understand why a guy like me that is basically like, you know, Franco's a low carb guy. I'm a carnivore, and I wouldn't take exogenous ketones, and it's for the reason that he said, and I didn't want to turn off my own ketogenesis. Right? It's two different things, people, when you hear somebody talk about ketones and somebody talking about ketogenesis, right? So my purpose in life is to get people to actually burn stored fat, not burn store-bought fat, if you get what I mean. So, yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Franco.
Socrates, I love, you know, we had a quick preliminary, and you know, I love that you're on this and that you're into this, because you are knowledgeable. When you're talking about PPR,
well, this is what you're saying is and just real quick before you get off, I'm gonna just so everybody understands what's going on here. We're talking about the actually metabolic pathway for activating what he just said, which was if you're on a low carb diet, you initially go into something called AMPK. So that's that metabolic system pathway is where you burn glycogen first before you start burning fat, right? So it's usually what happens in the first. That's why they want you to actually, you know, do a little cardio before you start lifting weight, right? Because they want you to turn that mechanism on, and then at some point you start getting into what they call PPAR, which is it gets complicated. You have PPAR Y and L and stuff like that. But the point is that once you're in PPAR is when you're actually burning the stubborn fat, the abnormal fat, the brown fat of the body, which is where the energy really comes from. And that's the ketogenesis you want to get to. But to get to that is the challenge, right? What I've experienced over the last decade is that when I put somebody on either a ketogenic diet, a low carb diet, or a carnivore diet, it becomes challenging because you go through, depending on the lifestyle you live to that point, it becomes difficult, right? I mean, you're either doing that by doing a 72-hour fast. You're either doing that by doing intermittent fasting. You're doing it by, you know, cold turkey, cutting out everything that's carb related. And I'm talking about everything. You know, no fruits, no vegetables, it's complicated. But if you had something like this that won't turn off, because, you know, your body works like a light switch. You either turn on a light switch or you turn it off. That's the feedback mechanism that he's talking about, right? There's no kind of turning it on. You don't kind of turn on ketogenesis. It's on or it's off, right? That's the process of everything. So if you can actually have something that could turn on a mechanism while you're introducing a newer lifestyle, that's a win-win situation. That's why I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
That's for just the health side of it. The other side of it is that I'm a boomer. I'm a baby boomer, right? I don't look like I'm 55, but I'm 55. And the reason I'm 55 is because I lived in PPR. Yeah. AR, right? That's where I live in. I live in that world where I'm trying to not reverse my age, but I'm trying to add life to my years. I don't care about the years to my life. I just want life to my years. I want to be able to be as energetic as Franco was a few seconds ago talking about this. He's excited about it. I'm excited about it. Why would I come out of retirement, and get involved in something like this if it wasn't something that was really excited? I'm caring about the people like my parents that suffer or losing their memories, right? That have, slight dementia, people that have Alzheimer's, people that have Parkinson's. This is not something that's new. This research has been there for decades. They've been doing it. The kids that have ADHD, right? They're putting them on keto diets. There's a reason for that, yeah. Right? So imagine your kid who's a little maybe on the spectrum, because everybody's on the spectrum, because all we have is garbage food. Everybody's a little bit on the spectrum. If you could introduce something, a little tool, right? A little small little hammer, right? They can actually keep them focused a little more. And just make their life a little better, right? That's all we're talking about, right? So that they don't have to feel like they're less of a person than their friend at school that does really great. It's easy for them to get A's, right? And they're not stupid. Come on, your kids aren't stupid, right? And you're like, wow, my child is intelligent. Why can't she get the grades? It's not their fault. It's the biochemistry. So this is guys, what's coming here over the next week. This is super, super exciting to me. It's super, super exciting to me. I can't wait to get my hands on this product. Of course, I like everything. I do everything, scientifically. You'll see me actually anecdotally doing this and taking it. And of course, I'm fit already. But what I see for my future, for my personal future over the next 60, 90 days is going to be hands down. Maybe I'll go back into the male physique contest again. I don't know. It all depends on how I feel. If it's true,
it's true.
I'm super excited.
Team. I'll start training for it too. We'll start our team.
Super excited. Super excited. But anyway, Dr. Franco, thank you so much. Get back to doing your magic over there, and we'll do another one of these in a couple of days, or maybe when Rachel gets back from her trip.
Yeah.
Ready, let me know.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
Franco.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Socrates, you want to stay on for a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about this.
So yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say, for those of you that are watching, this might be the first time that you see Rachel and I actually communicating and working together, even though we've known each other for just under a decade. And we've always worked on the side, kind of doing things on the side, and fitness related and things like that. And this time is a moment that this is groundbreaking stuff that we're talking about here, right? This is one of those products that that you want to get involved with, and not because there might not. It's not about. Listen, guys, it's not about money, right? Bob Marley said it best. If you do anything for money, then what is it? Then you're constantly never going to be happy, because it's never going to be enough. Money's never going to be enough, right? So I like doing things for the legacy of things. I want to do things so that when I'm dead, somebody can say, oh yeah, about 10 years ago, this guy named Socrates introduced me to this little pill, and it changed my life. It changed the life of my son. My son was uncontrollable, and he became the most lovely little kid, the kid that I knew he could be. He changed the life of my mom, who was suffering with the beginning of Alzheimer's, and all of a sudden she became clearer, and she got an extra 4 or 5 years of amazing life. That story, that's what I want to do, and that's what I think that brings Rachel and I together, is that we have that love for people, right? And of course, it's okay to make a buck too, right? I mean, it's fair, right? We live in a capitalistic world, so it's okay to make a buck at it, but not at the not at the risk or the expense of somebody's health, right? So it's all a hand in hand type of thing. I want to give you all the value and the knowledge and the support that you need to have the best life that you can possibly have. And in turn, all I want you to do is just share it. I want you to just say, hey, look, listen, this has changed my life. Check it out. It might be for you, might not be for you. But I think, considering what we've seen over the last 2 years, and we're not going to talk about politics here, but considering what we've seen over the last 2 years and how health has really impacted globally, right? The acceptance of pandemic, right? Using a lesser word. I think that we need to take it upon ourselves as individuals to really look at our bodies, at our own immune systems. How can we build that up so that we don't become victims to the next bug that's around the corner, right? Because there's reasons why some people are just carriers, right? There's reason why they call them, right? They call them, what's the magical word that they call people now? Anti-symptomatic, right? When you're anti-symptomatic. So that in the world that I grew up means it just meant that you're a healthy person, right? Okay, it's like, right, when you're asymptomatic, when you're a healthy person, right? So what I want to do is I want to get millions of these anti-symptomatic people, right, for the next pandemic, so that they can be like, oh, I guess I'm just like to do this anti-symptomatic person. So that's fine. But you got to understand that it starts with you. It starts with the choices that you make. I'm not saying you can't have a drink of wine, a glass of wine. I'm not saying you can't have a beer with your buddies. I'm not saying you can't have a piece of cake, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that, out of the 365 days of the year, the 20 days that are for your family, that are for your personal birthday, your wife's birthday, your kid's birthday, Jesus's birthday, Muhammad's birthday, Buddha's birthday, your dog's birthday. Listen, you can celebrate your fish, okay? You still don't have enough days to destroy your life, okay? If you just enjoy those 20 days a year, but the rest of the time, just do the habits that fortify your immune system. That's all we're gonna share.
Okay, so here we go. Ready, guys? This is it. This is it right here. So Socrates and I, he's been personal training since 1996. Okay, he's got his PhD in biochemistry. The guy knows what he's doing. Okay, and so, coupled with me, my background is in Pilates. I have I've been personal training myself for many years. I don't practice it, but I've had my license since I was 18, or my certificate. And I've been into fitness and nutrition for many years myself. So between the two of us, we are partnering up together to run challenges, both 7-day keto challenges and 30-day Get Fit challenges. We are going to start one starting next week. So if you want to be in this, then comment below and we will get you the information. The second thing, so just say, yes, count me in, or just whatever it is, just comment something and we will go back to the comments and make sure that you have this information. That's number one. Number two, if you are my friend and you're not with B-Epic yet, and if you are Socrates' friend and you are not in B-Epic to get this product and you want information, comment me below. Just comment me. And actually, let me just give you this number now. Okay, so you can text the word sample to 855, and I'm gonna put it in the comments or in the post. 855-647-0970. You don't have to write it down. I'm going to put it in the post itself, okay? So when you text the word sample to that number, you're going to be on our list. And Socrates and I, we're going to go through that list and we're going to make sure that you have your sample, you have your information to get started with this challenge that we're going to be doing, and you're going to be partnered with us. We're going to be going through the same challenge as you. We're doing it with you. And we have all kinds of really exciting point systems. We have prizes. We have, like, we'll come to your house and give you a big hug and pat you on the back. We are really in it to help people. We are not in it for the money, even though we're going to make money. We're in it to help people. We love it.
What's the number again? 855. What is it?
Okay, it is 855-647-0970. So text the word sample to that number, and you will be on our list. And we'll get you a sample, and we'll make sure that you have all the information to get started with the challenge with us. Okay? So Socrates, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm so excited that you went live. This is not the beginning. This is only the this is the beginning of a really awesome start to a fun partnership. So thank you.
It's gonna be exciting. Boom.
All right, everybody.
Bye, guys.